Namaste and welcome, beloved mighty companions, to this holy circle of light, where we've been brought together by the one who knows to celebrate light. To focus on the light, infinite light of being. That we have no other function. You can ask Jesus, Jesus, do I have any other function than to be light? To be infinite. And celebrate the power of divine being. So, today we were given the movie Armageddon. And it was so great because yesterday Lori was talking about the desire for annihilation, but you see that's for us, all of us to see. So Armageddon's like a nonstop desire for annihilation movie. It starts with the first opening scene is a picture of the world and how, the dinosaurs got wiped out because incoming, dun, 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 incoming asteroid, it's going to blow up the world. And how this is repeating, how this is going to repeat now because we had a whole new asteroid coming. Yet we know the asteroid belt is all below the conscious, in the subconscious mind, to try and have sensory experiences that convinces us that it's possible to be annihilated. Jesus, is there a desire below my level of awareness to have an experience as though I can be annihilated? And then it's a scramble. It's going to be a scramble to prevent and save all the bodies of the world. We can't have the end of the world. So one of us is going to have to die to save the world. Can you see the play in consciousness of that, the impossibility? If we save the body 3 more minutes, 3 more minutes of saving a body will be saved. Can you see the desire below the level of awareness? That there's some value in saving a body for 3 more minutes? When it only takes instantaneously to see infinite lights here. Infinite happiness. The desire for the mission to get in a spaceship and go up into space to save bodies. Yet the spirit can use that to see ultimately that the only thing of value is to see that love is already here. No bodies get saved. Even Lazarus woke from the dead. I'm sure there were some good conversations. Lazarus, what was going on while you were dead? But Lazarus in consciousness, that symbol is gone. It's just a symbol of the resurrection and the recognition that death has no power over infinite light. So at Christmas, we talk about the resurrection. To see that nothing holds any power. We're like haunting ourselves with the idea of the death wish. It's haunting. Jesus, do I desire to haunt myself with the death wish? To feel haunted. See, that's what's really pressed out of awareness. These little tiny twitches each have the death wish under them. You can ask Jesus that if I twitch, any kind of twitch, meaning that there's something happens, let's just say we're watching this movie and a bomb blows up, and that kind of reflex response, See that that's a play of cause and effect, the belief that a bomb blows up out there, quote unquote. See, it's a play to see that it's outside, and then we're going to respond to it. You can ask Jesus, Jesus, do I need to respond to that? Does the light respond, have a reflex action? It's a play in consciousness to make it seem like objects outside are real, that something's happening in form that can impact light. See that nothing can impact light. In the infinite light of being, does anything impact light? Jesus is saying it's time for the Son of God to wake up and see who he is. Okay, Jesus. Why not today? Why not right this minute see that infinite light's here? He says it's far simpler. You just admit it's here and cease to deny that it is. Jesus, is it completely possible to wake up to my true identity now? It can't be any other way. Infinite light always has the power to see what it is. It just is likes the play of weakness. We can ask Jesus that. That's a good question. Jesus, is there a desire? Do I relish being weak more than the supreme happiness? Might as well look in honesty of God. Do I relish having these continual feelings? Because it seems like in a moment, all of a sudden we get overwhelmed by thoughts, feelings, and emotion. Isn't that an interesting play in consciousness? All of a sudden it just seems so real and on top of us, kind of, it's just like I can't get away from this feeling. But is that true? That's how it plays in consciousness. I got to get rid of this feeling. So consciousness generates the feeling and then tries to escape it. That's salvation. If I could just escape this feeling, I'll be safe. Rather than to look to see that consciousness itself is generating the experience through desire for an experience of whatever's arising. And that's all we're doing now is just looking. Oh, I want this. Let's just see that. Let's just see if that wanting of it makes it true. Let's just see if all the wanting of the world, all the twitching while we watch a movie, is that true? Ask Jesus. Jesus, when I'm like watching a movie and I'm contracting or feeling emotion and responding to a movie on the screen, is any of that true? So we're just looking to see, the assumption is that it's true. The assumption. Yet I give everything I see all the meaning it has for me. Wow. Really let that sink in. Jesus, am I willing to let that sink in? I give everything I see all the meaning it has for me. I want to look at that. That's to admit the denials. So, Jesus, the tiniest little twitch is a desired experience. He never tells me no on that one. Because it would deny divinity. It would deny the nature of the infinite light. It's really deep looking with him and asked him, Jesus, do I not want to be light, even though I know I can see there's light here and I don't want it? Jesus, do I want to avoid? Is there a desire below my level of awareness to avoid peace at all costs? He says this can only occur when you believe that salvation lies in not being peaceful. So we can ask him, if I'm not at peace all the time, Jesus, does that mean that I believe that salvation lies in not being peaceful? That I want to avoid peace? So instead of being afraid when we look directly, just look directly and stand into it and have him show you the desire. He's saying, yes, stand into it with me and see that the energy of desire will dissipate. It can't outlast light. I'm asking him, yes, I'm asking, is it helpful to look with you at light and ask to see how we don't want to be light? Like not one shred of being light. He says you have to look that deeply to realize how much you don't want it. I'm asking him, is there a what? No. It's really seeing how much the light is, we really want to boot that out of the mind. How much we want to give infinite happiness the boot. Let's ask him, Jesus, is there a desire to trade supreme happiness for pain and pleasure as a mask over it? It's very humbling when he says yes. So are you telling me I would rather have pain and pleasure more than supreme happiness? He's saying as long as you desire the body, you desire pain and pleasure more than supreme happiness. It's helpful to look directly at a desire for a body. He's saying yes. How much it's relished. Do I relish a no more than a yes? Is a no to divinity of more value to me than yes to divinity? Just see that nothing happens if we admit it. At least we can admit it. Says that's honesty of God. That's accepting the power that God has you to discern and listen and hear my voice to show you where the no's are, what the real no is. It's like, Jesus, do I actually know what I'm saying no to? We don't even know what we're saying no to. That has become more and more clear for here. Like the more I go with Jesus, the more I see. I don't know what is my happiness at all. He has to show me. Because we're so linked ourselves to happiness about form, Happiness, the way form looks. Happiness, what someone says to us. Happiness, what we say to someone else. Happiness to have all the family over for Christmas. It conditional. He's not saying it's good or bad. He's just saying, see how much every attachment to something in form, every attachment to an idol is unhappiness. To love things in form, objects, more than seeing that you are love. Jesus, do I have a stronger affiliation for objects than I do for recognizing divine light? Do I value emotional experience more than I value divine light? You feel like you can, he's saying, you feel like you can be saved by emotional experiences. You believe those are salvation. Ask him, do I believe emotional experiences are salvation? It's like consciousness has to play in that currency to maintain a sense of separation, the currency of emotional experience. See that the light doesn't get involved in emotions. Someone once said, that feels cold. See, the light's not cold. It's peaceful. So it's concepts about what the light is, what Jesus is. I'm asking him, is that one of the greatest impediments? It's one of the greatest impediments, is the idea of who you think Jesus is. Because it merely reflects who you think you are. Jesus, do I have any concepts about you that I can give over to you? That you would show me? He says, when you don't follow me, you definitely have concepts about me. When you try to argue with me, you definitely have concepts about me. But it only reflects the ideas that you have about who you are. That was so beautiful when he told me. He said, I was asking him about miracles. He said, if you really knew what they were, you don't know what miracles are. Because if you really knew what they are, you wouldn't deny yourself them. He says, even a miracle is a concept in the mind of the dreamer. It has to be a closely guarded secret through a concept. Otherwise, there's no discussion. There's just miracle. The miracle, like forgiveness, just falls away as the time for forgiveness is done. I'm asking him, so do we even believe even a forgiveness is a concept, just a helpful concept? See, the ego just stacks concepts on top of other concepts. Concepts being like a little cluster or constellation of ideas that congeal as though they're real. And then, yeah, the ego's just duking it out with a bunch of concepts that aren't real. It's a play of duking it out with concepts. It's very striking when it's recognized how much it's relished to duke it out with ourselves. Like we can't, when it really gets seen that there's no one to duke it out with, there's no victim nor victimizer. When we really go with them, and to see how much we relish duking it out with ourselves, beating ourselves up. Ask them, Jesus, do I really relish that? Yes, you relish making it hard on yourself to wake up. Wow. Okay. Jesus, do I have a desire to really beat myself up? He said, again, he says, you just relish that. Relish beating yourself up and making it difficult to wake up. He says, it takes no time to wake up. The time is merely the part of the personal identity that wants to be maintained. Light doesn't experience time. Time is a concept. It's just a concept of big fat no to light, to infinite, to the timeless. The relishing of time is experience. Jesus, do I relish time as experience? Do I relish being involved in change as experience? Do I relish suffering as experience? That's the ground upon which the relationship, the holy relationship with the one who knows, can be built. Because then it's seen directly, the no. We can't hide behind the face of innocence, not seeing where the buck stops, not seeing the power of divinity to cease to deny itself. But he knows that we still do deep under the subconscious mind. So he's really saying to look with me at any ideas that this isn't gentle. He's offering a very gentle way now. So if non-gentleness is the experience, then look with me at the desire for non-gentle awakening. Join with the mighty and look deeply. And see that in every case, all the ungentleness is coming from the ego. It's never coming from the Holy Spirit, infinite love. See that the light's gentle. It's just here. And then anything else, as he says, in perfect peace is desire for the experience. So he says, see quickly your power to accept the correction. Quickly. Jesus, is there any desire below my level of awareness not to accept the correction quickly? See, as soon as we're ready to quickly accept corrections, it's very quick. It's the no to the correction that he's really drilling down to with these desires. The desire not to accept the correction. Jesus, are all desires a desire not to accept the correction? Yes. Yet he can work with us through that. With willingness, he just reveals the desire, the no's. And to leave no part of our mind untouched. Leave everything available. Like I said, talking to Pablo, and he's saying, I'm not having anything hidden. I'm just putting every single thing up. For everything that's held back, there will be suffering. Anything that's held back, Jesus, ask him, Jesus, for anything that I would hold for the light, will I suffer it? Yes, because it's withholding from yourself. So everything has to be given over. Every thought, feeling, emotion, every idea. I'm asking them, yes. These are like the scraps. These are hanging on to scraps of nothingness, he says. Saving and preserving a body is nothingness. That's very interesting. He's reminding me about when I was growing up in Catholic, you'd have holy days of obligation. You'd have to be obligated to go to church. That's a play in consciousness. That God, we're obligated to God in some way. We are obligated to God, but not in the way the ego would fight it. We're obligated to God because we're made by God and can't be apart by God. That's the obligation. We're obligated because anything other than being one for him is very unhappy. Yeah, he's just showing me more and more, like, there's simply no happiness without that alignment to God. Like not even having a smidgen of an idea of what happiness is. A whole lifetime not having a clue about what happiness is because of the desire not to experience happiness. We cannot experience it's. I'm asking, no. Until we see the denials of happiness, what a no really is. Jesus, will you show me what the no really is? That is so valuable to understand what we're saying no to. It's not just a simple no, I'm not following you today. It's a no to supreme happiness. It's a yes to feeling unworthy. It's a yes to feeling abandoned. See, not following is saying yes to feeling abandoned. See, it's a preference. It's a desire to feel abandoned more than having the experience of one with the Father. Not following, he's reminding me, not following is saying no to the miracle. So we come together to learn what supreme happiness is without an idea of what it is. He keeps showing me we're so addicted to form, happiness being form. You're going to take me away from my family at Christmas. You're going to take my family away. He's only showing us which things we're attached to that we don't want anyway. How many habits we have of going to family reunions or whatever they are every year out of obligation, out of what we think we need to be doing when our heart is not in it at all. If we look honestly, but we don't want to look because we want to hold on to those concepts of what a family is. And that our happiness is in a big turkey dinner. He's not trying to take away our happiness. We're taking our own happiness by not following. You can have a turkey dinner. We can have a turkey dinner. The light doesn't have a challenge with anything in form. It's just that consciousness makes certain things so that certain experiences and then predetermines what will suffer with them. And then we pretend like we like them and that we're obligated to them. And Jesus will give you a prompt not to do that, not to go. It's not where your heart is. And then we fight Jesus. No, Jesus, we've been having these family reunions for 50 years. And then you start looking and you see how many identity issues there are around family and being held bound. And the idea of safety in a family, rather than to see that our safety rests with God, our supreme happiness rests in the arms of our Father. So I'm asking him, he's bringing up the tamales. The tamales. So it was the first Christmas that I was at Living Miracles at La Casa over there. And I was in the kitchen. This was the sparkiest idea, I thought, to have tamales for Christmas. Like I just didn't have an attachment to a turkey or there are other places, obviously, in the mind that I was attached to, but that wasn't one of them. And everything's preyed on. Just like here, everything's preyed on. No one, if you're devoted to Jesus, you don't make any decisions without Jesus, because that's making decisions that are not in alignment with supreme being. It's like once you see that supreme being, when Jesus is talking, that's supreme happiness talking there. You're not going to give it up for anything. It's like, no. So anyway, we had that. And it was quite in the play of consciousness. I didn't give a thought to it, actually. But, where's my turkey dinner? And God doesn't take it away. They ended up having a turkey dinner a couple of days later. But it's just see how much unhappiness is over the wanting a certain concept, that safety, comfort lies in a certain kind of food and a certain kind of and how much certainty and comfort we try to get through physical things, rituals, and how dead that is. You can start to see the death in it. Now, I may at some point it might be given to go back to the family or have a big turkey. Or Jesus doesn't judge any of it. He just knows truly where our heart is. Speaking of obligations, how we've obligated ourselves to be trapped, feel trapped in hell of rituals, rather than the spontaneous nature of being that is happiness itself, and then these seeming experiences arise. But there's no, that shark hunting, the shark hunting for a future or a certain constellation of chairs around a table filled with certain bodies. You know, and my sister said that to me yesterday, I think. My spirituality is my family. She wasn't really, seemed like that reflection. Well, what do you mean? You know, you're not coming home. All the kids are gathering, all 7. We have to see that our one accountability is to truth. And that our only function in his lifetime is to celebrate the nature of infinite being. I am grateful to my family. There's love there, but it's not the kind of love of possessive love anymore. Or safety. I could see that. I'd go home. There are certain rituals. Go home from college and try to get comfort by opening the refrigerator and seeing what's in there. Or what mom makes, or there's no celebration in that, you know? You can't be with your family and you're not even with them. I mean, we think that we are, but we're living in the concept of who we think our brothers and sisters and our mothers and we're living in the concepts with them. We're not even present with them at the dinner table. That's what I'm seeing. We're clinging to some idea or some grievance of something that they did when we were little or whatever. Yeah. Like I can't be free. Like to sit and have a conversation with my brother without a past or a future in it. So beautiful. In form, he's my brother, but he's my mighty companion beyond a brother. So much more valuable. So that's what's really offered this Christmas season. To look at our families and see what concepts we've laid upon them as our brother. How many times we've looked upon our family with the belief that they're here to rip heaven from us. Any concepts that we would make them any different than any being that's sitting here with us tonight. We have to let Jesus arrange the constellations, because you'll see it as a play in consciousness, how consciousness will organize its little safety clusters. You notice it'll cluster the beings that agree. It'll cluster that you feel most in common with. It'll cluster the beings that don't challenge. You know, that friend's out, give them the boot. That really Jesus knows what's most helpful in terms of the constellation of beings that are brought in for us to help us see what's true. And really trust that. And it can play in consciousness. Oh my God, Jesus, you're taking my family away. But you'll see very quickly that he doesn't. There's just love becomes generalized in every situation, that love's present instead of those seeming figures to try to preserve a sense of personal identity. He gives you the ones that will help set you free. And sometimes that may mean that we step away from what seems to be a family situation. But he says sometimes that's what's most helpful, to see things with new eyes. The eyes of God. To see all things as holy, whole, and complete. To see through the eyes of our only function, infinite light. And to be all the love that we are. So that we no longer compromise ourselves. Boy, when you start seeing what being compromised by saying no to his guidance. And then every relationship is the same as the relationship with Jesus. Every relationship becomes the Christ relationship. Holy, whole, and complete. That's a relationship without compromise. Thank you, Jesus, for bringing us together. Without obligations. I was talking with Marguerite, and we were talking about how several people have commented on this too. On the description of the center, it says something, because it was so beautiful. I heard this at Muji's. I saw this. And Muji would say it, and he would say, live as though you have no rights. And when I really got that, the love in it, the freedom, how the idea of rights deny identity. See, because when you think you have rights, then you think you have something to protect your rights. And so there was kind of like a line in that, in the sort of the precepts for the center. See how quickly, as soon as someone says, I'm taking your rights away, we get tense. Or that we have the slightest feeling like we don't have any rights, up in arms. We fought for freedom. We got to go to war and fight for freedom. See that there's automatic, as soon as they're rights. It's a helpful reminder, Jesus. Thank you. To see how much total happiness there is to live without a single right, no rights. We have everything. We are everything. What would we need rights for? What do we need rights for? That's a good question. Jesus says you don't need them. What would a divine being need that has everything given by God need with rights? Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, my brother. Love to all of you. Willingness. Love you.